We are at a turning point in history when it comes to the state of our planet. Climate change is happening, and around the world, people are trying to figure out the best ways to limit the crisis. And it's not just scientists, inventors, or politicians. Children and teenagers are leading the way with some great ideas, dedication, and drive. Every year, the Children's Climate Foundation puts the spotlight on some of the most extraordinary efforts being made by young people. And today, we're celebrating the winners of 2020. I'm Maddie Savage. Welcome to the Children's Climate Prize. Now, usually the winners get to come to a grand ceremony here in Stockholm at the stunning City Hall, but this year, things have to be done a little bit differently due to the pandemic. So we're going to be meeting the winners online. Before I introduce them, though, looking back on 2020, it has been a challenging and tough year for all of us. But that's why it's so important that we don't forget that there are good and positive things happening in the world as well. And that's why this year's winners are so important. They dared to look for solutions and think positively, even during these turbulent times. And just take a look at the globe. This is a map of all of the places that we've had people entering from more than 20 countries, a record number of participants this time around. And before we meet the winners, let's tell you a little bit more about some of the finalists.
My project is Youth versus Apocalypse, that seeks to stop the climate crisis by dismantling the foundational systems of oppression that are responsible for creating it.
We feel that three-stage Chulika will be very useful for the future as global warming and global population are increasing day by day. We are currently depending on small startups which would make our project be known and available for a larger public very soon. Thank you.
I designed an energy-efficient, hybrid high-speed train technology. It uses renewable energy sources instead of fossil fuels. I'm hoping people will want to travel in my train instead of sitting in traffic causing air pollution.
All in all, nature is a genius. And when we can harness her power through innovation, we can make the world a better place.
This year marks 5 years since the start of the Children's Climate Prize, which means there's a pretty cool back catalogue of former winners around the world. And we're going to chat to a few of them before we go on to this year's prizes. We're going to be speaking to Vihan and Nav. They're in New Delhi in India, last year's Clean Air Prize winners for their One Step Greener project. Also Edgar in Arusha, Tanzania. He won in 2017 for his Green Venture Recycled project. And we've also got Shreya in California. She won last year for her grey water project. I'm hoping that they've all dialed up and they're there to have a chat with us. Hello to all of you. A big wave and a hey from Stockholm. That's how we say hello here. It would be nice if you could just say hi in your languages from wherever you are. Let's start with you, Edgar, in Tanzania. We know you haven't got your camera on because your connection isn't brilliant at the moment, but give us a hello from there, please.
Habari.
Is that Swahili?
Yeah, that's Swahili.
Let's go to India next.
Namaste.
And California.
Hello.
Awesome. Great to have you all with us. We're going to chat to Edgar in Tanzania first off. You were the winner in 2017 and you actually got to come here to Stockholm, Sweden to pick up your award for your very entrepreneurial project, Green Venture Recycles, which essentially converts waste plastic into affordable building materials. Now, I'm really interested to know how your project has managed during the COVID-19 pandemic and what sort of things you had to change and adapt to continue working with that.
Yeah, thanks for the good question. So since the COVID pandemic started, we had a lot of things to deal with, especially because most of the people actually stopped building houses, so making bricks was not the best idea at that time. And yeah, we decided to actually shift our production line from making recycled bricks and use the plastic waste that we had in making recycled plastic face shields. So the plastics that we used to make the face shields were plastics that we got from mainly national parks. So Serengeti National Park, which is among the largest national parks in Tanzania, were able to pick up plastic waste from there and actually convert the plastic bottles into face shields that were used by students and frontline healthcare workers. So
What a
we were
brilliant
able
and
to make,
innovative way to pivot your idea. How many did you end up producing?
So we made 1,000 face shields, and they were supplied to Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda.
Great, congratulations. We're going to move on to Shreya. You received the prize last year for your solution to dealing with grey water waste. That's essentially all of the waste that comes out of our homes from our sinks, showers, washing machines, anything except for toilet waste, really. How have you managed to keep up with your work despite the COVID restrictions where you are in California?
Right. I've had to pivot a lot of the work that I was doing to a virtual format. For example, I was planning an Earth Day summit and competition for Earth Day 50, where students would learn about climate change, water scarcity, and represent their learnings with art, research posters, music, and literature. And due to the lockdown, I rapidly shifted those events online, and I made it a virtual reality summit, brought in speakers, added interactive components, so people were still able to walk through a virtual gallery, learn, and have a similar experience to one they would have had in person. And I've also seen that during this time, a lot of teachers and educators are looking for online curricula that they can use to engage their students. So I've been providing my gray water curriculum free of charge to teachers. And since last year, my school count has actually increased to over 90 schools so far.
So impressive. Also from last year, we have the first ever winners in the new Clean Air Prize category. Vihan and Nav in New Delhi. Your project was about fighting air pollution there, a big issue in India. So what did it mean to you guys to come all the way to Stockholm and pick up your prize last year?
We were very humbled when we got invited to come to Sweden, even as part of the 5 finalists, because we consider Sweden to be quite the gold standard in terms of recycling and tree plantations and taking care of our environment. We were pleasantly surprised that people from Sweden were recognizing our work and seeing it. So, yeah, definitely we were quite honored and, quite humbled as well. So
and you got
it was a great experience for us.
And you got to meet some pretty big names, including the Swedish king and queen, I hear.
Yeah, so that was a great experience. As Behan said, it was another honor for us. And with the King and Queen of Sweden, we also met the First Lady and the President of India. And it really helped us and motivated us towards our goal of a greener future. And it also showed us that everyone, if you actually implement change and if you do something in the world, everyone will listen. So yeah.
Well, we're glad you got so much out of it. And we're also really glad that you were able to join us digitally today. So thanks so much to all of you, to Vihan and Nav, also to Shreya and Edgar. So it's goodbye, or hey door, as we say here in Stockholm. And we'll see you again soon.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Next up, we're going to welcome the chair of the Children's Climate Prize jury, which selects the winners every year. Welcome. He's also vice chair of the Swedish Climate Policy Council, appears regularly on Swedish TV channel TV4 on the climate show Klimatkollen. His name is Johan Kjellner. Thank you so much for being with us. You certainly sound like the right person in the right job. Big expert on climate. You are the jury chairman, and it must be so inspiring to see all of these nominations, but also quite time-consuming to go through all of them. But we've seen so much creativity this year and a record-breaking number of people taking part. Why do you think so many people were interested in 2020?
Well, climate change interests a lot of young people, there's no doubt. I mean, they see this as a monumental threat to their own future. And it has, of course, caused a lot of depression even, climate depression. This prize demonstrates also that there is a lot of force among young people to try to do something about the future, to really use their innovation and entrepreneurship to come up with good ideas. And I think that this has actually stimulated action among them, not just being passive, but really trying to take their own future in their own hands. And I think this is what we see now. We see young people all over the world who wants to really impact in a positive way their own future.
Yeah, and it's so nice to hear some positive ideas, particularly during the midst of a global pandemic. But what kind of an impact do you think actually winning the Children's Climate Prize will have on the winning entrepreneurs and the innovators?
Well, it's a recognition of the work they are doing. So I think that it has a direct impact for them, we hope at least. Of course, they get a recognition also in their countries. In this year, of course, in India, for instance, but also on a global scale. It shows that the idea they have is actually something that can be upscaled. It can make a difference. And I think that is also a recognition for them. But I also would argue that this, winning this prize and being able to communicate about it also will influence and hopefully stimulate other young people in their own country, but also all over the world, that, yes, this is something I can do as well. I also have good ideas. I see these young people winning the prize. They become role models for others. And I think this is equally important for the prize, not just the winners as such. I mean, they are incredible, of course. But the fact that this prize also stimulates other young people to think, wow, this is something I can do as well.
Yeah, definitely. And everyone who got involved and entered, we are grateful for, not just for the winners this time around.
Absolutely. I mean, there are, selecting the winners is incredibly difficult because there are so many good ideas.
Thank you so much, head of the jury, and we're going to speak to some other members of the jury now as well. They're connecting up with us digitally. So hi to you guys. We've got, I think, Sam Barrett from the United Nations Environmental Programme based in Nairobi, Kenya. We've also got Malati Waisen. She's a former finalist for the Children's Climate Prize. You're in Bali, Indonesia, I think. So great to have you both with us. We'll start with Sam, actually. As one of the more senior members on the jury, no offence, do you think that adults are starting to do a better job at listening to children and young people when it comes to the climate compared to a few years ago?
I'd say compared to a few years ago, yes. Is it good enough? No. I think there's a long way to go. And I think it's moved on from being tokenistic. But I feel like, for me, the future and the next generation really need to have a stake in the decisions that are made now, because they'll inherit the consequences of those. And so I feel like there's a lot more that we can do. But I think the Secretary General of the UN is talking a lot, which is doing the right. But I think old people think they know best half the time and don't listen enough to younger people, and we need to do a much better job on that.
Yeah, really important point there. So let's go to Malati, a former finalist. You've now got a seat on the jury, so having the chance to have your say that way around. But you've got a very strong voice highlighting some of the key issues when it comes to climate change and young people. Just tell us a little bit more about your work, in particular your project Youthtopia. How's that been making an impact?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think, it's been incredibly humbling to be part of the jury and to see that there are so many young people out there that are already taking a stand, taking action. And that, directly corresponds as well to the work that I get to do every single day, which is connecting and mobilizing, organizing with like-minded young people. Youthtopia, my new project, basically after 7 years on the front line, trying to make my island home of Bali plastic bag free, I decided, okay, we need to have a platform where we empower young people, but through a peer-to-peer education philosophy. So that's where Youthtopia is all about, bringing young people who are at the front lines and building programs with them to empower the rising young change maker. And so, where the Children's Climate Prize is all about recognizing and empowering young people who have already done those things, we want to work with them at Youthtopia and say, look, it's not only these young people, you can be one too. And I think that that's a nice synergy that we have here tonight.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck with your work in that area. Thank you so much for joining us, Sam. Thank you, Malati, as well. And of course, to Johan with me here in the studio in Stockholm. And now it's finally time to learn a bit more about our winners.
Deforestation is the second leading cause of climate change. But just randomly planting new trees can sometimes do more harm than good by reducing biodiversity. Therefore, Adya Joshi founded The Right Green and developed a database including over 15,000 plant-insect feeding relationships from different ecoregions of India. Using her newly invented Biopower Index, landscapers, gardeners, and civic authorities can plant the best biodiversity-supporting plants. Her educational outreach workshops have empowered and enabled communities to restore healthy ecosystems rich in biodiversity, while also addressing climate change.
What a smart project. Well, we'll hear from Adja herself and find out a little bit more about her project later on. But first, we have a guest here in the studio. Welcome, Johannes Bolson, the CEO at Telia Energy, which initiated the Children's Climate Prize 5 years ago. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first of all, first reactions to Adja's work.
I think Adja's work is amazing. And her putting the light on biodiversity is a really important issue. And she's doing it, and she's talking about it, and her work has the possibility to really make a change on a large scale.
And there've been 5 years of prizes now. Why did you start this initiative in the first place?
We started this initiative. I would say that Telia Energy has been working with the environmental development for the last decade, but we realized that our efforts is not enough. And we also recognize that on the global discussion, the voices of the ones that are affected of the decisions made today, it's not heard. So children and young people need to have their voices in this discussion because they are the ones that are supposed to live with the decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And Changemaker is the title of this prize. What does it mean to you to be a change maker?
To be a change maker is sort of going beyond the obvious and to reframing the way we think. And at Telia Energy, we have fight the boundaries of the energy market and try to see from different perspectives and different angles. And I would say that's what a change maker does. And also that you change comes from new perspectives. And also from a somewhat naive idea that change can be made in almost any area if you just want to do it.
Some great thoughts there. Anything else to add before we find out more about Adja?
I'm very proud of the Children's Climate Prize and what it has done and what it is doing for the winners, and also how the foundation is supporting these young environmental leaders in their work. They are just not talking about it. They are creating it.
Thanks very much for being here with us. Johannes Bolson, the CEO at Telia Energy, which initiated the Children's Climate Prize. And now it's time for us to get to know Adja a little bit better. First up, we've got a video from Mumbai in India, where she lives, to help us learn a bit more about her project.
If we don't fix our environmental problems like right now, I think that we're going to end up living in a world that is completely inhabitable. So I think it's very important that everyone makes an effort to try and solve these problems right now. And even if it's only planting the right trees for your area, I think that is still a step in the right direction and a very important step in the right direction towards solving these problems. My name is Adya Joshi. I am 17 years old. I'm from Mumbai, India, and I'm the founder of The Right Green. I like to think of myself as an environmentalist who has a really, really great love for science. I also like to think of myself as somewhat of an educator and, to a small extent, a musician. I've always really been interested in the environment. I come from a family that places a lot of emphasis on being outdoors. I also grew up on a lot of stories of like when my grandfather was young. This entire area used to be completely forested. And I think for me, my environmental kind of conscious side has come from that. And that's really when I started to pay a lot more attention to, well, what's going on here? So I think the big problem right now is that when we have large-scale plantation drives, you typically find that everyone plant one kind of tree. It'll be like, 700 bougainvilleas in a row. And not only is that one monoculture so devastating in terms of the lack of diversity, but when you plant something like a bougainvillea in India, which is a plant that's from Central America, you're actually not allowing any of the other life or the biodiversity that depends on these plants to flourish and to grow. So we are an organization that is dedicated to spreading awareness about the importance of native plants in restoring urban biodiversity in these areas. I was so thrilled and so excited to get the prize. When I found out about it, I think I was in shock for like a couple hours because I just couldn't believe that I actually got such an honor. My end goal with The Right Green is for everyone in the world to understand how important it is to plant native to their areas and then to actually do that. I really hope to be able to live in a world that is safe, both environmentally and also like otherwise. And to be able to really experience the full breadth and beauty of the planet that we live in. And that's really what I hope that our future is going to look like.
Wow, so much hard work has gone into that project. And we can meet the person behind it, Adya. She's logged onto her computer, I'm hoping in Mumbai. Yes, there she is. Hello. Great to see you.
Hi.
A big congratulations from all of us in Stockholm. I want to know what's happening next then. What's next for this data bank that you've created?
So I myself created about 15,000 of these relationships within the database. And my next steps really for it are to crowdsource as much of the information going forward as possible from the global research community, and also maybe try and automate the algorithms within the database so that people can get like the more updated lists faster. Because right now we obviously only have 4 of them, but as we move forward, if any new information comes back, right now we're doing everything manually. And so that takes a little bit longer to like get everything in order. And then my next step is to try and work through also like automating the biopower index, because that is another thing that I'm manually going through as well. And so that, yeah.
At the moment, this is all in India, though, right? But the jury said they think there's great potential for this to be scaled, to become global. How would that feel to you to see these kind of projects being replicated elsewhere?
I think it would make me really happy and really proud. And also, I think that it's something that's really necessary right now because, again, very few people know what's native or non-native to their country, let alone their own, like the region that they stay in. And so if people know about it, it's something that's so simple to do. And right now, especially with The Right Green, we are working on scaling it up a little bit more. So we started with Mumbai, and right now I'm working with the newspaper to try and get it spread to 700 schools in the rest of the state. And if that works out, take it to the rest of the country and maybe the rest of the world.
Well, step by step, we wish you all the best of luck with that. And what's your message to other young people that are watching this, maybe feeling inspired or feeling like they've got some other burning ideas that they'd like to take on like you have?
I think you have to, if you have an idea that you think is very important, you have to go out and you have to try and, you have to do it yourself, because no one's going to think it's as important as you do until you make them see how important it is. And so that's really my advice, is if you find something that you think is super important, you're super passionate about, you have to keep working at it all the time. And then the other thing I obviously have to say is don't forget to plant native wherever you are in the world.
I'm sure everyone will want to get planting after hearing about your project. Thanks so much for joining us. Bye, Adya.
Bye.
All right, now we're going to move on to the next prize, clean air.
Air pollution is today the single biggest environmental threat to human health. According to the World Health Organization, 9 out of 10 people are breathing toxic air, and children are most at risk. There are about 10 million ironing carts in use in the streets of India. Together, they use about 50 million kilos of charcoal every day, consuming enormous amounts of wood, polluting the air, and contributing to climate change. Vinisha recognized the need for a sustainable solution to the problem and created a solar-powered ironing cart, an innovation that proves safer and healthier air. If implemented on a large scale, this is an invention that can have a significant positive impact on India's air quality and people's health. Benefits to both society and the environment with sustainable clean air solutions.
The Clean Air Prize was initiated by air purification company Blue Air to try and help raise awareness, support innovation and drive action to fight one of the biggest health risks for young people today, that of air pollution. And Blue Air have sent us this message. They say children are more vulnerable to air pollution than adults because their bodies are still growing. And as we saw in that earlier video, according to the World Health Organization, 9 out of 10 people currently breathe in toxic air. Now, Blue Air say that clean air is fundamental to living a healthy human life. The air we breathe touches our lives in many ways, the way we think, how well we sleep, and how long we live. And they say the team at Blue Air is very proud to see Vinisha's engagement and drive for a future free of air pollution. So let's find out a little bit more about her. This year's Clean Air winner, she's based in Chennai, India, Vinisha Umashankar.
Since when I was young, I was surrounded by people who don't understand climate change, and also people don't understand that air pollution can affect the whole world. Air pollution severely decreases the quality of air. Also, unknowingly, we breathe many toxic and deadly pollutants every day. The reason I am connected to clean air is to create awareness about it and give it a voice. My name is Vinisha. I'm 14 years old and my hobbies include singing, painting, playing the keyboard and gymnastics. I also love to make pancakes. One day when I was walking home from school, I noticed one of the ironing men in my street using charcoal. Charcoal contributes to air pollution and creates more toxic pollutants. So I researched for a viable solution to prevent air pollution and increase air quality. So I realized that solar energy can efficiently substitute charcoal. That's when I got my idea of the solar ironing cart, because I wanted to replace charcoal with solar energy. Just imagine how much deadly pollutants get mixed up in the air. My innovation uses solar panels as the main energy harnesser to harness solar energy and convert it to electricity. When I first saw my prototype, I was so excited. It was a full-scale prototype and everything was working. I rode it across the street and I charged my mobile phone. Everything was working really well. At that moment, it clicked to me that this innovation could change the system of ironing clothes completely in this country. I am both concerned and happy for the future because I know my generation is working towards the better future of this planet. But I am concerned because there are still people in this planet who think climate change isn't real. It's not a question of whether we can or cannot solve air pollution problems. We should all face air pollution head on and solve them.
Wow, what a cool idea. Absolutely love that invention. And I'm normally someone that hates anything to do with ironing. We can connect up with Vinisha. She's logged onto her tablet. So I think I can say hello to her now. Yay, hi Vinisha, hey from Stockholm.
Hello.
Congratulations on your win. Really, really well deserved. I want to know what's happening next. We saw in that film some photos of your prototype, but what are the coming steps for you now?
Well, since I won the Children's Climate Prize this year, I am planning to create my own prototype and improve it even further. Since the initial ambition for the ironing cart was to eliminate the usage of charcoal to prevent deforestation, with this prize money, I'd also like to make the ironing cart more efficient during cloudy or rainy days. This would also help the vendors who iron the clothes. And that's pretty much what I have in store for now.
Well, it sounds brilliant, and I'm sure you're inspiring a lot of other people around the world. What's your message to other young people watching this and finding out about your win?
Well, my message to all the students and this generation around the world is believe in yourself. What others think of you is completely irrelevant because you have your own passions and strengths. Just learn knowledge around it and develop your own unique set of skills. But I must say, no one is in charge of your future but you. So stay conscious about the environment and the quality of air so we can have a good environment for the current and future generations.
Some really worthwhile words there. Thank you so much, Vinisha. I'm sure we'll be hearing from you again in the future. But for now, from us here in Stockholm, bye.
Thank you. It was a pleasure speaking to you today.
Now we have another exciting guest joining us in the studio, someone who's followed this prize ever since it was first launched. Welcome to Sweden's Environment and Climate Minister, also Deputy Prime Minister of Sweden, Isabella Lövin. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So, what are your thoughts on this year's brilliant winners?
Well, I think they are really brilliant, talented and very responsible girls that see a problem and tries to find a solution to the problem. I think both addressing the pollution in our cities and climate change, which the solar-powered iron invention does, and also looking at the biodiversity and how we must protect the biodiversity and the ecosystems through this native plants bank. I think it's really brilliant ideas, and they are also going to be very useful and practical at work.
And speaking of biodiversity, that's come up a lot during today's discussions, also air pollution. How much are these topics part of the global climate agenda at the moment?
Increasingly, they are in the discussions. I think a few years ago, we were almost always talking about emissions, how to reduce coal-fired power plants and the use of oil and gas, fossil fuels. But now, increasingly, we're talking also about ecosystem services and how replanting the forest and trying to restore the natural ecosystems, how that binds carbon from the atmosphere into the soil, into the green that we have on our planet, and how that increases the biodiversity, the insects, the flowers, the butterflies, everything that is beautiful on our planet, but also creates services for us as humanity when it comes to water, when it comes to the air that we breathe. So it's more and more interlinked, these discussions, and I think we just have one big ecosystem on our planet, and the climate and the atmosphere is part of that, but also the ocean and the forest and everything that is green on our planet.
We've heard from a few people today who've ended up in the spotlight because of their ideas, but what about the green youth movement more generally? What do you think about that, and how is that influencing politics around the world right now?
Well, I think it's incredibly important, and it really made me so happy when I saw increasing numbers of young people in the streets, not only in Sweden, because it started out in Sweden and in Europe, but all across the globe. And that's a really, really impressive and mighty sign of a new generation that demands their right to a healthy planet. And they have every right to that. And it has impacted global politics. I can really say that. I've been to these meetings. I've seen the change in the rhetoric and the words used by our global leaders, both at the Davos, where the business leaders are, at the UN and in the EU. I mean, Greta Thunberg, who started all this only 1 or 2 years ago, she's been invited to all of these very major events and been a major speaker at these events, and all the leaders can relate to their own children or grandchildren, and that makes a change. So really, my great thanks to everyone that has showed their willingness to really put pressure on global leaders. And I would like to say to them, they have succeeded, but we're not there yet. We need to keep working.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts and for being here to honour this year's winners. Isabella Levin, thank you. Well, thanks again to Vinisha, Adja, our former winners as well, the finalists, the jury, and the companies supporting the Children's Climate Prize. We've learned so much today in a short time, and if there's one thing to take away, it's that children and teenagers, well, you guys are on it when it comes to climate change. It's great to see there are so many young minds out there working on making the future brighter. And those of us who are just a little bit older, we can definitely learn so much from all of you. So the Children's Climate Prize is then over for this year, but the search for next year's heroes is about to get started. There are so many other fantastic projects, big and small, which we know are out there, but we just haven't heard about them yet. So do let us know. The organisers of the Children's Climate Prize want to put as many as possible in the spotlight during the coming months so we can keep celebrating positive ideas and basically give people some more good news in 2020. So do get in touch when you see or hear of anyone who has a sustainable project. You can use the hashtag Children's Climate Prize or simply tag at Children's Climate Prize. Next year's winners are already somewhere out there. In the meantime, thank you so much again for today, and we hope to see you again next year.
Listen. Listen carefully. Listen to the brave, smart, unique, and important voices from the world's youth. Listen to Shuteska. Listen to Shreya. Listen to Jose and Edgar. Listen to Nab. Listen to Vihan. Listen to Vinisha. Listen to Adya. Listen to the ones who are yet to come. Listen to the good news of 2020.